Chapter 9, Problem 73. So a home mechanic wants to raise the 280 kilogram engine out of a car. The plan is to stretch a rope vertically from the engine to a branch of a tree 6 meters above and back to the bumper, as in figure 9-88. When the mechanic climbs up a stepladder and pulls horizontally on the rope at its midpoint, the engine rises out of the car. Part A. How much force must the mechanic exert to hold the engine 0.50 meters above its normal position? And B. What is the system's mechanical advantage? All right, so essentially we just want to answer A and B. And a good way to start will be always to draw a free body diagram. So if you look at my free body diagram here, maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't make sense immediately. Let's just try to go through it. So this first junction point here on the left, I'll just, the one that's red, I'll call it. That's going to be where the mechanic is pulling up the car, the car motor, and with the box being the motor there at the bottom. So he has to have a rope that not only goes 6 meters, but 6.5 meters, right? So some of it's going to be a little bit on his side, this 0.25, and then the other half is going to be split wherever in front of the car there, like right near the motor, right? So you're going to have 0.5 near the motor, or sorry, 0.25 near the motor, 0.25 from the near the mechanic, and that makes up our 0.5. So aside from that, what else do we have? So we have the F pulling to the left. That's obviously, well, I didn't call it that yet, but this is essentially the F pull, FP, F pull, or F will all work. Let's just call it FP for now. That's the mechanic pulling the rope up. And then you have tension in both. Then you have tension both up and downward there at the same junction. The angle's up at the top. You have 3 meters distance from the top of the tree to the middle, where the mechanic is pulling from, and then you have another free body diagram. Well, it's like two. It's kind of like two put together. One is for the mechanic, and one is for the motor itself. So the motor itself is going to be hanging off the rope, so it's going to have a tension, and it's going to have a gravity pulling down. So with all of that, we can begin. So let M represent the mass of the engine, and like I said before, since the mechanic raised the motor by 0.5 meters, it means that there is 0.25 between the mechanic and the car, as well as from the bumper to the motor. So this is what I meant when I said, close to the motor, close to the mechanic. There's going to be a little bit of leeway, that 0.25 meters. So, okay, here I've split them up, right? You have the engine free body diagram there with very simple, probably the simplest, most basic one. You have the tension force is equal to mg, and so there's only two forces. They're only in the y direction. So I know mg doesn't look that straight, but it's supposed to be straight up and down. So the tension force, at least in the motor, is going to be mg. And then for the mechanic, we have the pulling force and the two tensions, right? So some of the forces, hold on here. Yeah, okay, so yes, so some of the forces in the x direction is going to be equal to 2 times. So you can see this is kind of like what we've dealt with before with the two y components being holding one object up, but now it's kind of just turned on its side. So we only have x components to the right, and the y components will basically cancel out, right? We have one going up and one going down, so across the x-axis they'll cancel. So we just have 2 times the tension force in the x direction minus the pull, right? And so from that we can find the pull. It's just 2 mg times sine theta. But we don't know what theta is. So, but what is theta? And here I've just drawn a cutout of the top of our thing. So all the way to the all the way to the mechanic, sorry, at the bottom left there of the triangle. It'll be 3.2 meters away to the top of the tree, and then down to the middle. Again, it's just 3 meters. So from that, we can find the angle for the whole thing. And so it should just be, well, you have to ask yourself what trig function can you use when you only have the adjacent and the hypotenuse? Cosine, right? You see the cosine there. But it's always good to ask yourself that question, check your understanding. So cosine theta is just going to be equal to the adjacent over hypotenuse, 3 over 3.25. And then to find the theta, you just want to take the arc cosine of that, the inverse. So you should just get 22.62, and then you just want to plug it in. With all that, we can find F pole, FP. F pole is going to be equal to 2 times mg times sine of 22.62. So you should get about 2100 for the F pole. It'll be somewhere close to there. And then the mechanical advantage is a little bit different, but still pretty easy to find. It's basically just the ratio between the load, sorry, I wrote those kind of close together, but the load force over the applied force. So how much was loaded versus how much was applied. So you have mg, just the natural weight of the motor there, and then how much force did you apply? So you put in 2100 newtons of force, and the newtons that were already there just from the object having mass is just 280 times 9.81. And so it turns out it's a little bit smaller, or actually, no, sorry, it's a little bit larger, so it's going to give something like 1.3.